here we are. Happy almost July, almost 4th of July. It's just out at the grocery store before and it's packed. I was like confused. It's like, why are there so many people out at the grocery store? And I guess people are, what's 4th of July? It's like in the middle of the week, right? So I guess they're planning a week long or a multi weekend to weekend celebration. Went in to get a few things and I was like, what the heck is going on? But I forgot about that. So it's like starting to feel like summer a bit. So I hope you're staying cool. It's like out here, the past week has been like this heat wave of death. I think it was on Sunday on my thermometer, it's like 105 I saw as the max temperature. I like took a picture of it and we were joking because I like to get out into the forest and like do these speed walks, exercise cardio, and it's like, yeah, it's hot. So I'm going to see how I can hold up. So I got ice packs and water I bring with me, but that heat is still killer. I had to slow down and like sit down. I guess when you're out there in the direct sun and it's that hot and that humid, it's like, woof. So I hope wherever you are, staying cool, air conditioning, enjoying your week-long 4th of July week-long week, or however people are doing it. I don't know. But I want to record a little show, answer some questions, see what's going on, and then probably take next week off. I don't know. See how it goes. But my name is Michael, a woman's photographer here in New Jersey. I've been photographing women for 15 years or so, hundreds and hundreds of women over the course of my career. So this little show started to answer some questions that people may have about working with a woman's photographer, the boudoir photography process. And ultimately, as we always talk about, it's not so easy trying to find a photographer. It gets tricky. And so we're here to help people make smart choices, and we want everyone to have fun, have a good experience, and walk away with pictures they enjoy. It's not easy. So hence we get all these questions. So I don't have many on a new gizmo system here today. So we'll get through these and we're going to pop in and we will get to work. All right. So let's see. To question number 1. Here we go. And question someone sent in was, how long does a boudoir session typically last? And I remember this was in the context of, how long do I need to come up with a plan to hide from my husband? He's usually like knows where I am all the time, and I got to be home at a certain time and leave at a certain time. And if my routine is not, people get suspicious. It's usually a secret. So, but it's a difficult question to answer because it's like asking somebody, how much does a home cost or how much does a car cost? There's a lot of factors kind of involved in that equation, and it's going to really vary from photographer to photographer. Travel time, is there makeup involved, and a lot of details in that session. So what I'm going to be answering here is just more or less kind of just general info. It's not going to be super specific. For details, you really have to reach out to the person you booked or will be booking, and they'll be able to tell you a little bit better how their session runs. But travel time aside, typically, if you're going in to do a photo session, usually get all your stuff inside, get settled, takes 10, 15 minutes or so. Then usually, depending on how your session is arranged, you're getting makeup done, sometimes hair done. Now that alone can take an hour. Makeup takes a while and people are talking, and hair could take a while. So that's, if you're getting makeup in here, that could be minimum of about an hour. It could be a little bit longer. So there's an hour or so right there. And then after that, getting changed and getting ready. And then depending how many outfits you have and the speed that somebody's working at, your photos could very easily be 2 additional hours. Seems like a really long time. You're like 2 hours, but it goes by like that, changing and going back and forth. And then figure even if you're there just for 2 hours for your photos, it takes a little while afterward, get all your stuff together, dressed. And then often, again, depending how the photographer works, either before your session or after, there may be some type of a photo review. There may be some type of a product review where they finally meeting the person and they may review some products for you and show you my thing. So that may take up a little bit more time as well. And rarely you find a photographer that does stuff while you wait. And so you got to wait around if they want to sell you all the photos on that particular day. We'll count that into the equation because that's more of a one-off. I think most people don't work in that way, but you can see you can easily be 3 to 4 hours if you're talking about a standard type of a session. So that's where I would put somebody as far as on average. Your mileage may vary based on your photographer and your situation. I'm talking about a regular kind of a session, not like a mini session or something like that group session. But I would say beginning to end, you're probably in that 3 to 4 hour range for your, so schedule that, expect that, plan to be away for at least that, plus your travel time, depending on how far your photographer is. So good question. And thanks for sending that in. And next question. Hey, Mike. Hey. Do most boudoir photographers sell digital files? I'm trying to save some money. Wouldn't that be cheaper than buying an album? And this is always an interesting question. And I get this question from time to time from people who are booking with me. Sometimes you'll see and you'll be talking to them, but what if I just want to get digital files? That's going to be a lot less. And the answer you don't want to hear is no. I think now many or most photographers do offer digital files, but it is not going to be cheaper than purchasing a photo book or a photo album or whatever you're buying from that photographer. And I think your brain is thinking, yeah, but there's no cost in a photo book or a photo album or prints or whatever you're getting. So it's just digital files that don't cost anything. So I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go in, get some digital file. I'm going to zip in and out, and I'm going to pay practically nothing for this session because those files have no worth. There's nothing tangible there. Well, what I tell people who bring this up with me and have this conversation, I said, well, do you realize how much time it takes me to go through those photos and edit them, each one? Never mind how many we do in a session, and airbrush out your tattoo that you got of your ex-boyfriend's name, do whatever they have to be done, straighten, and all that work that goes in, and photographers stylize and sort of get their own look for each and every photo. So at the end of that process, whether those photos go into a photo album or not, all that time has been put in up to that point. So you're paying for that time, expertise, stylized look for that particular photographer, which is put into those digital files. And then really it's only one more step to put them into a photo book. So all that work of that photographer's creative ability is still put into those digital files. So that's why they're really not going to be any less typically than a photo book, because they're going to still look the way that you want. They're still going to be edited and cropped and whatever else they're doing to them. So just because they're not attached or in a tangible kind of a product doesn't necessarily always mean they are going to be less. Some cases they're going to charge you more than just getting digital files. And seems a little bit counterintuitive. That's how probably most photographers are going to work. So there's no real cost savings doing it in that way. There may be a tiny bit, but in general, it's not going to be any appreciable difference, probably, whether you just get digital files versus a printed product because the time involved in creating them is essentially almost the same, and you're paying for that photographer's experience, ability, so forth and so on, which they're going to charge you for one way or the other. This question is way more popular probably than you think. So I appreciate that, sending that in, but and again, your photographer, your mileage may vary with that person, but it's not necessarily a cost savings measure to just get digital files. But good question. So I appreciate you sending that in. And what do I have next? Oh yeah. Question number 3. Hey, Mike. Oh, hey. What's the turnaround time for boudoir videos? Is it faster or slower than albums? Thanks. Yeah, this is actually interesting considering what we just talked about with all the time and effort that goes into creating, even if you were just to get a digital file versus a printed product. So it's very similar for video. There is a ton of time that goes into editing videos, probably more than photos, depending on what type of video that you're doing. And so the answer to a question like this ultimately comes down to a couple of things. It really comes down to how busy that photographer is, probably how skilled or how used to they are to working on videos. And the answer is probably it's about the same as photos. It's probably a couple weeks, depending on how many videos that you do. The photographer's workload, for instance, like in spring, you catch somebody and they're working on 5 or 6 other projects, and they got to do a little bit from each one of these projects to stay on track. And they may be prioritizing clients by wedding day or getting that one done first or so forth. So yeah, it could still be a couple weeks for videos. Again, even though they're not attached to any kind of physical product, it's not necessarily going to be cheaper. On a comparison basis, going in and probably getting just boudoir videos versus digitals, the videos may be more because more work involved in creating a video, editing things, clips and music, and scrubbing back and forth and trying to put things, it's a whole new skill set. It's a different skill set, but it still takes a lot of time to put videos together. So I would still say minimum 2 to 3 weeks, probably after your session, for someone to put together a video. Again, it's going to vary from photographer, but it depends on, I guess, the number of videos you're doing, the length. Like if you're just doing short clips, 20 or 30 seconds, standing by a window, and that could be quicker. Or if they're not doing a lot of editing or not adding music or some kind of voiceover or something like that, it's pretty quick. If they're longer videos, which, like everything we do, tends to become more complicated. And if you have multiple cameras and angles and shoots, that could take a while to put together. Even though you're saying it's only 6 minutes or 7 minutes, that's a lot of video to go through, and angles and syncing. And so it's its own complication as these things start to get more involved. So good question. Just a rough guess again based on your photographer, but as always, and you should be having this conversation beforehand with whoever you book about when you need your items. And if they are on the ball, they will tell you, no worries, I can get in there before then. But that may vary. But I'm going to still say a few weeks on that one. So good question. We're flying through. And I don't have a lot of questions in here today, so I think there's just one more. So this could be a fast show. That's all right, because I should be out preparing for my week-long 4th of July celebration. I have no idea what I'm doing, but apparently everybody else does. Okay, so on to question number 4. I don't remember what I have in here. Oh, yeah. Finish it off with this. This is quite an involved question. Okay. So this was an email. I remember getting this in. I'm comfortable with my sexuality and wanted to include props in my session. You could fill in the blanks there. If you're watching the video, you can see what this is in particular. For photos or videos, basically this woman wanted to come in and do erotic videos, and she was listing some props that she wanted to use. The erotic photog in my area continued on part B. Seems very amateurish. I don't get good vibes from his website, but more established boudoir photographers in my area don't really display or talk about the kind of photos I like on their website. Any suggestions? So just to recap here, women wanted to do some erotic videos with some very specific types of props, which is fine. Searched around for erotic photographers or videographers in her area, came across some dude, didn't really get great vibes from what she was seeing or the type of message on that website. You know, and any other maybe women's photographers in that area really aren't necessarily kind of showing the type of material that she wanted to go in and create. So what do you do in this situation where, you know, I don't want to go with this person, but yet I don't see any other choices. So this is interesting. And what I would say, yeah, do not go the route of discomfort. I know what you're talking about in erotic photography, especially if you're doing something explicit. You got to be like okay with that person, and that's a whole nother discussion to have as far as comfort level. And you know, I'm glad you're comfortable with yourself, and it is not unusual to go in and want to do more types of erotic videos these days. It is just becoming more and more common. But you want to have someone that you're going to be okay with going in, confident that they're going to film this in the way that you want, and you're going to get the results that you want. You don't want to be creeped out in your session. So I get it. You're not getting a good vibe, something about it. You know, don't settle. It's probably not the route that you want to go. Now, what I will say, in the world of boudoir photography, often photographers may not show everything that they do in their entire arsenal for one reason or another. Sometimes you may see a photographer that really doesn't display or talk about any type of work that is more sexual in nature, but they're still okay doing it. They just are marketing their business a certain way, or they really don't want that crowd coming in with a lot of requests. But just because you see something doesn't necessarily mean that particular photographer will do it. Sometimes when there are more explicit things or erotic things, the photographer wants to have a little bit of Zoom or video chat, or at a minimum of a phone chat with the person to kind of catch a vibe and make sure people are okay. So just because you just don't see that anywhere, and also what we were talking about as far as photographers go now, Google is punishing photographers' websites now for showing more graphic photos. So you don't want to, they may not want to risk their business not being shown in Google listings, or, you know, because Google now is turning into this evil thing that is just like, you know, sanctioning websites for showing types of material. And you're like, yeah, it's art, it's people. They don't see it that way. They categorize anything with a woman's body now, and it is evil. So they're really putting the squeeze on boudoir photographers. So they may be potentially even eliminating that from their website just because they don't want Google to penalize them in some way, which is a real possibility now. So I would really recommend reaching out to that person saying, hey, you know, don't really see this on your website. Here's my idea, specifically using your D asterisk. You know, just wanted to check in and see if this is something that we could chat about or you would be comfortable doing, and reach out to those people that you saw the work, who actually weren't showing that type of work, but there were women's photographers in your area. Maybe you felt a little bit more comfortable with, or liked their style a little bit better, or felt a little less creeped out with them. It sounds so weird to say that. And then interview or talk with those people, find out if they, you know, not really a problem. I just don't want to show that. But, you know, it could also be where the photographer isn't comfortable doing that. And there are women's photographers who are not comfortable. There is a line that they'll go to. They do not want to deal with anything past that line. And that line may be different for every single person. Rarely may they put that on their website, no explicit stuff. But so it does sometimes take a little bit of legwork to get in and find the person in your area who may be okay doing that type of work for you. So it's going to take some energy, some footwork to go in. Don't choose the person that you don't like. You may have to drive a little bit more. You have to interview a few more photographers to do that. So that way you can get the results that you want for your gift. And hopefully you go out and find that person and it works out for you, because it's not easy. And that's the point of this whole entire show, that going out and finding the right photographer for you and what you want to create is work. It can be energy put in, but it's worth it in the end. And never make the assumption that all photographers are the same. Never go out and choose your photographer solely because you find the lowest price. As we always talk about, it's not like getting ice cream in the grocery store. $3.99, that's the winner. That's the easiest way to get yourself in trouble. And you really need to not only read websites, often chat with people, discuss the photos that you kind of want to do. And then budget is always a factor, but that sometimes comes a little bit further down the line. You got to, find the person that you like. And if you want good, experienced photographer, you got to pay for it. There's no getting around. There's no finding someone who's going to be really, really great and paying a rock bottom, Dollar General price for somebody. It's just not going to happen. And you just have to shop smarter for women's photography. And we've done so many episodes talking about that. And so that way, when you are finished, how often do you go out and do something like this? And that way you'll walk away and not only having a great experience and having fun, but having photos or videos or products that you're going to enjoy for years and years afterwards. So that kind of sums up the whole point of this show. And it is work to get in and find a photographer. And that's why we want everybody to have a great experience. It's not so easy. It's not so straightforward. And there are photographers doing all kinds of stuff that they may not advertise on their website for one reason or another. So you got to dig a little bit, find the person that you kind of like their work and vibe best with. And, that could take some effort, but it's worth it. So that's what we do around here. Answer a few questions, give people the information and make smart choices. It's fun to do. Glad we're helping people out along the way. And so every episode we try to answer a few questions just like this. This was a shorter one. Sometimes we go on for an hour or so, but that's fine. Friday, we'll wrap this up with a short show. And as always, if you have this and you're seeing this on YouTube, you can always leave comments down below with your questions and we see it. Or people still reach me on my website or my chat or Instagram. If you have a question, we get it on a future show. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in on the YouTube, on the Spotify, wherever you're finding this show. And enjoy your holiday pre-weekend to holiday weekend. Stay cool, stay comfortable, shop smart, and I will see you on the next show. So thanks, everybody, and talk to you next time. Thanks.